Reborn a week before the apocalypse, I didn't hoard food, nor did I build a shelter. Instead, I frantically took out loans to buy a king of dump trucks, because after the apocalypse hits, all vehicles will transform into human exoskeleton mechas. Zhang San, who owned a Ferrari, evolved into a streamlined armored assassin. Li Si, who drove a heavy-duty SUV, transformed into a tank warrior. Even Wang Irma, who drove a Wuling Hongguang, awakened as a logistics armor skilled in transportation. But in my past life, because I was broke, my vehicle was just a shared bicycle. I could only evolve into a ridiculously flimsy, squishy armor. But of all things, why a bicycle? Even an Alto would have been better. It wasn't until later that I found out. This all followed the iron law of conservation of mass and functional mapping. The bigger and heavier the vehicle, the stronger the transformed mecha. And so, after I tried to use my speed to challenge a Mechagodzilla, it stepped on me and flattened me like a pancake. Before I died, I had only one thought: if I get a second chance, I'm going to drive the biggest damn vehicle there is. When I opened my eyes again, I was back, 7 days before the apocalypse. After waking up, the first thing I did was check my phone's bank balance. I only had 300 yuan. That's not even enough to buy a wheel for an electric scooter. But a smirk appeared on my face. In my past life, I was an honest guy who even paid his online loans on time. But in 7 days, the world order will collapse. Currency will become worthless paper, and the credit system will be completely wiped out. Money will be the most worthless thing in the world. Time to take out loans. Take them out like there's no tomorrow. My fingers flew across the screen. Xiao Lu Dai, Jin Shi, Yin Tiao, Jia Tiao, Chou Tuan, Shenghua Fei. Any loan I could get my hands on, I didn't miss a single one. Application approved. Credit limit, 5,000 yuan. Withdraw now. Immediately. Credit limit, 80,000 yuan. Withdraw now. In just half an hour, my bank account balance had already risen to 600,000. Not enough. It's far from enough. This can only buy a decent Mercedes E-Class, which is just a slightly higher class of cannon fodder. Against a Devourer-level monster, you might be able to withstand one extra kick. I don't want to just survive. I want to crush everything. I want the kind of power that can blow a Devourer's head off with a single punch. To be able to do whatever I want in this wasteland, with absolute power that nothing can stand against. My gaze shifted to the names in my contact list, the ones I never dared to contact before. Lone Shark Agent. Hello, is this Brother Who? This is Lin Chen. That's right, I want to borrow money. The interest rate is no problem. Even your insane terms are fine. I want cash. The more, the better. That night, in the underground financial world of Linhai City, a madman appeared. He didn't ask about interest rates, didn't look at contracts, and just wanted the money. As dawn was breaking, I stared at the long string of numbers on my bank card. 3.8 million. This is a number I got by using all my future credit, and even my life. If the apocalypse doesn't come in 7 days, I'll be torn to pieces by these creditors. But the apocalypse will definitely come. I walked to the bathroom and splashed my face hard with cold water. The reflection in the mirror showed heavy dark circles under my eyes, but the fire burning within them was enough to start a prairie fire. 3.8 million. I'm going to buy a real monster. The heavy industrial machinery trading zone. This place was filled with steel behemoths standing like prehistoric beasts. I walked straight into an office made from a converted shipping container. A few rough-looking men were sitting around a table playing cards. Seeing me come in, one of them, a bald man with a fleshy face, lifted his eyelids slightly. Looking for work? Go next door. Selling insurance? Get lost, the bald man said gruffly. I'm here to buy a vehicle. I didn't waste any words and directly took out my phone, showing them the conspicuous balance screen. My voice wasn't loud, but it sounded exceptionally clear amidst the noisy card game. The bald man's movement stopped. He squinted his eyes, glancing at the numbers on the screen. Well. Turns out you're a boss. My mistake. A Scania, a Volvo, or a domestic Jifang? If you're doing long-haul logistics, I'd recommend. I'm not in logistics, I want the biggest one. Which vehicle here has the largest tonnage? I interrupted him coldly. Zhao Hu was taken aback for a moment. He looked me up and down, at my cheap clothes that cost less than $100, suspecting I was some brain-dead rich kid who'd stolen money from his family. The biggest? We've got a few recently decommissioned mining dump trucks, but those are for engineering use. They're not street legal, Zhao Hu said suspiciously. Take me to see them, I said, decisively. We stood in the back of the parking lot. Even though I was mentally prepared, when I saw that colossus with my own eyes, my breath still caught for a second. It was a custom-built giant mining dump truck, a heavily modified version of an SCM G400. Its body was taller than a 4-story building. Just the diameter of its massive tires was nearly 4 meters. Standing in front of it, I wasn't even as tall as half a tire. It has a dead weight of 260 tons, and its fully loaded gross weight can reach 660 tons. 660 tons? Hearing that, my pupils trembled violently. In my past life, Zhang Hao's prized Ferrari weighed no more than 1.5 tons. Even that mechanical beast that crushed me, I'd estimate its tonnage was only around 500 tons. If I had this truck, at the moment the apocalypse arrives, according to the law of conservation of mass, what kind of terrifying mech would this 660-ton steel body transform into? I reached out a hand, tremblingly caressing the rough texture of the tire. The coarse feeling from my fingertips made the blood in my entire body boil. Boss, this truck is just for looking. You can't get a license plate for this thing, and it's a gas guzzler. Stepping on the gas costs a few $100. Even as a decoration, it just takes up too much space, Zhao Hu advised from the side. How much? I cut him off, my eyes fixed fanatically on the cockpit that towered into the clouds. Zhao Hu, thinking he had misheard, was clearly stunned for a moment. I'm asking you, how much for this truck? Not for sale. I turned and started to walk away. I turned my head back, staring daggers at Zhao Hu. My gaze was like a starving wolf's on a piece of fresh meat. Zhao Hu was startled by my stare. He subconsciously took a step back. This truck may have been taken to cover a debt, but it's an industrial behemoth after all. Its original price was over 20 million. Even though it's depreciated now, it's still got to be worth 5 million. Not a penny less. In reality, this truck had been sitting here for 3 years, and absolutely no one wanted it. He could have sold it for a base price of 3 million. Zhao Hu was just trying to rip me off. I said coldly, I don't have that much. I only have 3.8 million. Zhao Hu's face fell, and half of his earlier enthusiasm instantly vanished. Then it's no deal. 3.8 million? Look over there. That might get you a second-hand Volvo tractor. 3.8 million. Paid in full. I'll transfer it now. And you don't have to worry about transport. I'll drive it away myself, I continued, staring at him. This truck is just scrap metal sitting here. In a few more years, it'll completely rot away. You won't get a single dime for it then. Sell it to me, and you can take your commission and go live it up tonight. 10 minutes later, the digital contract was signed. With a soft ding, the balance in my account was instantly wiped out, leaving only a few $100 for living expenses. Boss, do you even know how to drive this thing? It's not like driving a regular car. You need a special license, Zhao Hu asked as he looked at me. In my past life, to earn my keep in the survivor camp, I spent 3 years repairing vehicles for the fleet. Is there any vehicle I haven't worked on? I replied indifferently. I climbed the near-vertical metal ladder, step by step, up to the cockpit 4 stories high. Sitting in the spacious driver's seat, which felt like a throne, I looked down at Zhao Hu below. He looked as small as a mouse from up here. This feeling of being high above everything. This is power. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling as I inserted the key into the ignition. I turned it. The thing that had slept for 3 years, its iron heart was awakened. The massive diesel engine let out a thunderous roar. The ground of the entire parking lot began to tremble. Zhao Hu covered his ears, watching the scene in shock. Rock breaker. No. From this day on, your name is Fortress. we're going home. I shifted into gear and released the handbrake. I slammed my foot on the accelerator. With a teeth-grinding screech of metal, and the roar of the engine, the 660-ton steel behemoth slowly began to move. The wire fence ahead was smashed open, and the barrier at the gate was crushed. Zhao Hu watched in terror as the giant truck charged forward like a rampaging bull. It completely ignored the main gate, smashing its own way through. Madman! That son of a bitch is definitely a madman. Zhao Hu screamed, standing his ground. As I drove the fortress, I felt an incredible rumbling and roaring. An exaggerated grin spread across my lips. This shell wasn't enough. 7 days until the apocalypse. That's enough time to arm this vehicle to the teeth. I took out a crumpled piece of paper. An address was written on it. Xing's is the biggest black market mod shop in Linhai City. Next up, installing a battering ram and welding on a rebar cage, and converting the front into a mobile armory. Zhang Hao, Li Meng, and that glutton. Are you all ready to face your fear? In the northern outskirts of Linhai City, there's an area, deliberately erased from map software, a gray zone. The locals call it Scrapyard City. This is a paradise for illegal modifications. Usually, this place is filled with the screeching of cutting machines, and the roar of heavy metal rock. But today, the entire Scrapyard City has fallen into a strange, deathly silence. Because a monster has arrived. Rumble. The ground trembled. The mining dump truck was like a moving mountain. It barbarically squeezed onto the narrow road. The scrapped cars on both sides looked like scattered toy models in front of this behemoth. I slammed on the brakes. The hiss of the brakes sounded like a whale's blowhole, kicking up a sky full of dust. A few mechanics were so startled they fell to the ground. Before long, a middle-aged, sturdy man holding a wrench walked out. His name is Wang Taizhan, the best mechanic in Scrapyard City. Hey buddy, you take a wrong turn. This is a repair shop, not an open-pit mine. This thing just cracked the foundation of my house, Wang Taizhan said with a frown. I'm not here for maintenance. Only modifications. I took out a neatly folded piece of paper from my pocket. It was the blueprint for the fortress that I had envisioned thousands of times in my mind during countless life-or-death escapes in my past life. Wang Taizhan took the blueprint. He only glanced at it, and his brow furrowed deeply. Install a V-shaped ram from a heavy-duty icebreaker on the front. Cover the entire vehicle with 50mm thick marine-grade steel plates. You even want to add blast-proof chain mail to the outside of the tires? Buddy, are you heading to war in Syria? Or are you planning to drive this thing through a mountain? This truck is already heavy as it is. If you add all this junk, is it supposed to fly? I want absolute defense and ramming power. Can you do it or not? If not, I'll find another shop. I can do it, but this is a huge amount of work. Just cutting and welding those steel plates alone would kill me. And your deadline is too tight. 3 days? That's completely impossible. 500,000 for labor. Materials will be extra. Wang Tieshan's breathing instantly became heavy. 500,000 was enough for him to live on for 3 years. Deal. Hey, boys, stop sleeping. Everybody, get up. We've got a big job. He yelled towards the workshop. Just as the workers were starting to prepare, a sharp, ear-piercing engine roar came from the entrance of the shop. A red Ferrari shot into the yard like a bolt of lightning. In this place full of grease and scrap metal, it looked completely out of place. The door opened. A man wearing sunglasses, a young man covered in designer brands stepped out. It was Zhang Hao, the one who, in my past life, had his sports car mutate into an agile-type mecha. The bastard who stole my only food and kicked me into a pile of zombies. When enemies meet, their eyes should burn with hatred, but at this moment, I was surprisingly calm. I coldly stared at this flamboyant peacock. Has my spoiler arrived? I have to get it first. Found it. It's the all-carbon fiber model, same as an F1 race car. I guarantee your car will be as light as paper. Wang Taizhan was busy responding. Hearing these words, from the shadows, a cold, grim smile formed on my lips. Yeah, as light as paper. The moment the apocalypse arrives, mass is life. The carbon fiber body that Zhang Hao was so proud of, sacrificed all of its defense in pursuit of ultimate speed. During that mutation, although his mecha gained teleportation-like speed, its defense was worse than a sheet metal trash can. Hey, what the hell is that? Zhang Hao finally noticed the massive mining truck in the distance that was blocking out the sun. In front of his red Ferrari, this pitch-black behemoth was like an insurmountable mountain. Hey, old Wang, since when did you guys start collecting scrap metal? Why is this huge, ugly thing sitting here? It's blocking this young master's light, you know? He turned his head, and his eyes met my dead, silent gaze. Yo, isn't it? What's his name? Hahaha, the insurance salesman, or was it the delivery guy? Lin Chen, right? What are you doing here? Don't tell me this truck is yours. Hahaha, are you insane? Why would you buy a thing like this? Are you planning to haul bricks at a construction site? Or maybe trying to stage an accident for insurance money? Just park this thing sideways on the road, who would dare to hit it? Hahaha, this is killing me. Cat got your tongue, are you deaf? I'm talking to you. Now hurry up and move this piece of junk. This young master's car needs an upgrade. Seeing that I remained silent, Zhang Hao shouted impatiently. Go on and enjoy your speed. After all, in 4 more days, the only time you'll be able to use it is when you're running for your life. Old Wang, ignore this poor bastard. Work on mine first, or else you can forget about the final payment. Zhang Hao said to Wang Taizhan. I watched as Zhang Hao drove the Ferrari onto the lift and began to remove the original steel anti-collision beam, replacing it with lighter carbon fiber parts. The mockery in my eyes grew stronger. He was subtracting, while I was adding. In this upcoming apocalyptic gamble, we were placing our bets on completely opposite ends. Night fell. In order to meet the deadline, I spent a full 200,000 on overtime pay. 20 master welders worked in shifts. The original flat radiator grill had been removed, replaced by a massive, triangular ramming prow. This prow was like a sharp sword piercing the heavens. Any obstacle in its path would be torn to shreds the instant of contact. This steel plate is too thin. Replace it. Bring that old ship plating over here. I want that 30mm one. I instructed the welder. Hey, buddy, hey, but that's ship plating. It's incredibly heavy. If we cover the whole thing with it, the door hinges will definitely break. The foreman said reluctantly, then replace the hinges, too. Replace them with tank pintles, I said decisively. For 3 days and 3 nights, I barely slept, my eyes glued to every single weld. I watched every screw being tightened, as every steel plate was installed. The vehicle's whole presence began to change. It was turning into a heavily armored war mammoth. In the early morning of the 3rd day, the modifications were finally complete. It sat there silently, giving off a suffocating, oppressive feeling. My goodness, what kind of monster have we created? Wang Taizhan muttered to himself as he looked at the finished product. Completing the modifications was just the first step. A tank without fuel is just an iron coffin. A fortress without food is just a tomb. At that point, there were only 3 days left until the end of the world. I drove this black behemoth out of Scrap Iron City. Every vehicle on the road scattered as if they'd seen a ghost, making way for this thing. The 3,650 horsepower diesel engine was an absolute gas guzzler. Its fuel consumption was measured in hundreds of liters per 100 kilometers. Once the apocalypse arrived, gas stations would either explode or run dry in an instant. Fuel would become a hard currency, more precious than gold. So, I went straight to a private fuel depot. Boss, I need to buy diesel. The -35 grade, low-temp resistant kind. I'll take every last drop you have. I knocked on the door of the depot office. The owner was a shrewd, heavy-set man. He looked my strange vehicle up and down. Buddy, they've been cracking down lately. You need a permit to buy this much fuel. How about a 20% markup, cash payment? Also, I'll need those big 200-liter oil drums. Fill them all to the brim, and load them directly onto my truck bed with a forklift, I replied calmly. Money talks. Half an hour later, heavy barrels of diesel started piling up in the truck bed, a full 20 tons. Enough to drive for thousands of kilometers in the post-apocalyptic world, or to keep my generator running for half a year. Next, I drove over to the wholesale market. I didn't buy any of those useless, flashy snacks. Instead, I headed straight for the grains and oils section. Give me 500 boxes of compressed biscuits, 200 cases of canned luncheon meat, 2 tons of rice, and 2 tons of bottled purified water. The owners at the wholesale market were grinning from ear to ear, thinking they'd run into some big-shot corporate buyer, and they even offered to deliver it for me. No need for delivery, I said, pointing to the black mountain parked outside. Just load it right on. By the time the last case of water was crammed into a remaining gap, the entire truck bed was almost completely full. But for this beast, with its 400-ton payload capacity, carrying tens of tons of supplies, the suspension system hadn't even sunk by a single centimeter. In the final 24 hours before the end of the world, the atmosphere in the city started to feel wrong. While most people were still caught up in their daily hustle, the more perceptive ones could already sense something was off. The sky had taken on a bizarre, grayish-yellow hue, and the clouds hung oppressively low. Even cell phone signals started cutting in and out. The news was reporting anomalies popping up all over the place. Experts on TV were debating whether this was a precursor to a massive solar flare. But I knew this was no solar flare. This was the mechanical spark approaching Earth. It was a high-dimensional energy wave. It was going to rewrite the very laws of physics on Earth. I drove my fortress slowly toward the location I had carefully chosen. It was located right on the edge of the city, an unfinished overpass. The elevation here was extremely high. It was the perfect position to attack from or to defend. Most importantly, there aren't many people or cars here. After all, the first wave of the apocalypse didn't come from mechanical beasts, but from the very vehicles right next to us. January 26, 2026, 11:58. Just 2 minutes left until the end of the world. It was the busiest time of day in the city. The intersection was packed with traffic. A red Ferrari was revving its engine at the intersection. That was Zhang Hao. On the sidewalk, Wang Ergu was riding his old-fashioned bicycle, with fresh groceries hanging from the handlebars. Everyone was just going about their daily lives as usual. Suddenly, the grayish-yellow sky turned a blinding, crimson red. The clouds began to swirl, forming 2 massive vortexes. In that instant, every electronic device went dark. The traffic lights died. The entire city's power grid collapsed in an instant. For 1 second, the whole world fell into an eerie, dead silence. I took a deep breath, my hands gripping the steering wheel for dear life. My knuckles turned white. An indescribable purple shockwave descended from the heavens, sweeping across the entire globe in an instant. It wasn't an explosion, but a resonance that vibrated through my very soul. I couldn't feel any pain, only an immense power, pinning me to my driver's seat. The seat itself grew warm and soft. Countless metallic nanoparticles surged out from the seat, crawling up my spine. They covered my entire body. Neural link establishing. Power core synchronizing. Life support system synchronizing. A series of cold, mechanical voices echoed directly inside my head. This wasn't a hallucination. The windshield in front of me liquefied in an instant, reforming into a massive panoramic screen, with endless streams of data scrolling past. Vehicle, SCMG 400. Custom Fortress Conversion Protocol. Mass Conservation and Function Mapping. Conversion complete, 100%. Mech codename, Fortress. Height, 15.6 meters. Mass, 660 tons. Armor type, heavy naval-grade steel composite armor. Average thickness, 80 millimeters. Core, G400 type diesel power matrix. Power output, 3,650 horsepower. Status, optimal. It's complete. I thought, as I clenched my fist, feeling the immense power coursing through me. I had merged as one with this steel behemoth. My thoughts were its commands. My will was its action. I looked outside. My viewpoint was now elevated more than 10 meters off the ground. The entire world had gone mad. Down at the intersection, that red Ferrari was transforming violently. Its chassis stretched and contorted. Its four wheels flipped and folded, becoming four sharp claws. The rear split open, forming a pair of deadly arm blades. A moment later, a mech about 3 meters tall, a crimson, assassin-class mech, was born. Ha ha ha, is this the power of a god? Zhang San's laughter rang out through some kind of resonance channel, reverberating in the minds of all nearby mechs. I feel like I can move faster than the speed of light. His mech became a red blur, darting through the streets at incredible speed. With a swing of its arm blades, it sliced a mech that had just transformed from a city bus, clean in half at the waist. Trash is still trash, Zhang San roared over the open channel. Not far away, Wang Ermatzi's old-fashioned bicycle had also finished its transformation. The frame had become its skeleton. The two wheels were slung over its back, one in front of the other. The handlebars became a pair of short clubs. The entire mech looked incredibly fragile. Mech codename, unknown. Base mass, 18 kilograms. In my field of view, its data automatically popped up. This was me in my past life, even a bit stronger than I was. My shared bike only had a base mass of 15 kilograms after transformation. This is the iron law of the apocalypse, cruel and fair. Just then, that red afterimage noticed me, this black behemoth standing on the overpass. What the hell is that thing? For the first time, shock appeared in Zhang San's public channel. His 3-meter-tall crimson lightning was as small as a toy in front of my fortress. I didn't respond. I just slowly raised my right arm. This arm was converted from a dump truck that weighed dozens of tons. Its outer layer was covered in 30mm thick special steel plating, and the battering ram at its tip was massive. As I moved, the massive diesel engine unit began to rumble. The hydraulic system let out a piercing roar, and a plume of black smoke spewed from the exhaust on my back, blotting out the sun. This sense of pure power left Zhang San speechless for a moment. Hey! Who are you? Stop playing mysterious. I'm warning you, don't get in my way. I am the king of speed, and you're a sitting duck. Before the words even left his mouth, his crimson lightning's engine roared, and it shot towards me like a red streak. He wanted to use the speed he was so proud of to prove his power. That pair of sharp arm blades sliced through the air at high speed, letting out a screech as they aimed for my leg armor. In my past life, he sent me flying into a horde of zombies just like this. I watched him quietly. You know nothing of mass. My deep voice boomed through the open public channel at full power, echoing through the entire block like a divine oracle. The next second, sparks flew. Zhang San's arm blade struck my shin armor, then shattered into pieces. In front of my 80mm thick, marine-grade composite steel plating, his blades, forged from Formula 1 grade carbon fiber, were as brittle as crackers. The immense recoil sent his mech flying backward, tumbling away pathetically. No! Impossible! Zhang San screamed. My carbon fiber, how can this be? He treated carbon fiber like some kind of divine weapon. I couldn't be bothered to waste any more words on him. I lifted my right foot. That giant tire, with a diameter of over 4 meters, was now a structurally complex, colossal warfoot. I just slowly stomped down. No! No! Zhang San's crimson lightning unleashed all its power, trying to escape that ever-growing shadow. His speed was indeed incredible, leaving afterimages on the ground. But it was meaningless against my massive footprint. The earth trembled violently. The overpass beneath my feet groaned under the strain, as countless cracks spread out from the center of my soul. I slowly lifted my foot. All that remained on the ground was a footprint half a meter deep, and in its center, a pile of red scrap metal, crushed into a pancake. The world was quiet now. I looked around. The chaos was still continuing. The vehicle mechs that had just finished transforming, some were frantically attacking everything around them, while others fled in panic. This was the first wave of impact, the chaos born from humanity itself. However, at that very moment, a low and piercing sound. From the far east of the city, a distant rumbling echoed, gurgle gurgle gurgle. That sound carried with it an intense, primal hunger. I whipped my head around, pushing my vision to its absolute limit. On the eastern horizon, a behemoth was slowly rising to its feet. What was once the city's largest landfill was now tens of thousands of tons of metallic waste. Scrapped cars, construction steel bars, all of it was writhing, converging, and fusing together. It had no fixed form, just a writhing mass of steel sludge. Every now and then, extending from its body, a tentacle made from the wreckage of more than a dozen cars would snatch a newly transformed mecha and drag it inside. With a sickening, crunching sound that made my skin crawl, that mecha became a part of its body. High-energy aggregate detected. Codename, Glutton. Larval form. Mass approximately 8,000 tons. Warning, extremely dangerous. Evade immediately. The system in my mind blared a shrill warning. 8,000 tons. I stared at the monster as it relentlessly devoured everything, its body still swelling in size. A shiver I hadn't felt in a long time ran through my entire body. So, in my past life, in the eyes of those apex predators, I wasn't even big enough to be a snack. But now, I looked down at my own 660-ton steel frame. Evade? I laughed. No. I shifted into gear. The roar from the power core instantly intensified by several orders of magnitude. It's hunting time. 8,000 tons. That's a number big enough to drive anyone to despair. In the early days of the apocalypse, most survivors' mechas were still only in the single or low double-digit ton range. This monster, formed from garbage and scrap metal, was an insurmountable god. It has no legs. Its chassis was a writhing mass of tank treads and a mixture of scrap tires. Its movement was slow, but with every push forward, the asphalt surface shattered like a cracker. Scrapped vehicles, lampposts, even the low-level mechas that failed to evade were snatched up by magnetic tentacles extending from its body, and roughly shoved into a giant maw cobbled together from several excavator buckets. A teeth-grinding sound of metal being chewed echoed through the street. Warning, energy disparity is too great. Immediate retreat is advised. In my mind, the system's cold alert tone flashed with a piercing red light. I lifted my hand and made a swiping motion in the air, directly closing the alarm module. Does being big automatically make you strong? I leaned back against the warm driver's seat, both hands gripping the twin-rail control levers. In my past life, I spent 3 years repairing vehicles for the fleet. I've seen too many cobbled-together machines that were all show and no substance. This glutton is only in its larval form. Its mass was just forcibly cobbled together by devouring garbage. Its internal structure is loose. It hasn't been thoroughly tempered by high-dimensional energy at all. It's nothing more than a rickety sandcastle, and I am a solid steel ball. The glutton had spotted me. This 15.6-meter-tall fortress on the overpass, covered in pitch-black heavy armor, was far too conspicuous. With a roar, a grotesque cackle like an air raid siren rang out. A giant tentacle, formed from 3 bus carriages connected end-to-end, and twisted together, cut through the air with a piercing screech, transforming into a giant whip that came crashing down on my head. I didn't flinch. I slammed the control levers forward. The 3,650 horsepower G400 model diesel matrix let out a deafening roar, as 2 plumes of jet black smoke erupted from the exhaust pipes. The fortress's massive legs bent slightly, then powerfully pushed off. The surface of the overpass collapsed instantly. I didn't choose to take the hit head-on. Instead, I used the momentum from the collapsing bridge to charge towards that bus tentacle. The fortress's right arm lifted up, the one with the shield made from a decommissioned icebreaker. Its armored shield, welded from 30mm special steel plates, slammed hard into the tentacle, sending sparks flying, creating a brief waterfall of fire. The tentacle snapped. The flimsy sheet metal of the bus, in the face of true heavy industrial special steel, was no match at all. The immense recoil dented the fortress's right arm armor by a few imperceptible millimeters, but the core structure was completely unharmed. Is that all the strength it has? I grinned, a violent glint flashing in my eyes. The fortress landed, its 660-ton body smashing into the street, stomping out 2 deep craters. Without a moment's pause, I slammed the throttle to the floor. the -35 low-temp diesel fuel combusted wildly in the chamber. Surging kinetic energy poured through the drivetrain into its legs. A 660-ton steel fortress unleashed a terrifying burst of power that completely defied its massive size. I charged fearlessly towards that writhing, 8,000-ton mountain of steel. The glutton saw me, a mere ant, daring to serve myself up on a platter. It let out a piercing, grotesque laugh. Its remaining dozen or so tentacles whipped out at once. There were giant spears twisted from excavator arms, strangling whips formed from rebar and sheet metal, and giant hammers made from scrap shipping containers. Like a death web blotting out the sky, it sealed off all my escape routes. The surviving mechs nearby cried out in despair over the public channel. "He's crazy, absolutely crazy. An 8,000-ton juvenile glutton. Even a cluster of hashtag tanks couldn't stop it, and he dares to charge it head-on. It's over. He's definitely going to be ground into scrap metal." But they didn't know. In my past life, struggling for 3 years in the apocalypse, I had seen too many cobbled together things that were all bark and no bite. And I understood an unbreakable truth even better: flashy attacks, if they can't break through your defense, are completely useless. Just as the dozens of tentacles were about to smash into me, a cold light erupted in my eyes. Neural link instantly maxed out. A soul-shaking roar echoed from the bottom of my heart: shatter. At my command, the icebreaker ram on my right arm instantly disintegrated into countless shimmering, cold nanometal particles. In just 0.3 seconds, a giant single-edged heavy blade, 12.8 meters long, and weighing 85 tons, took shape. The body of the blade was the icebreaker's original special nickel-chromium alloy steel. The edge was the wear-resistant blade of a mining dump truck. The patterns on its body still carried the original ram's cold, hard-killing intent, a perfect match for my Fortress mech's heavy-duty frame. Shattering origin, break for me. I roared. My mech's waist twisted violently, its entire 3,650 horsepower engine's power was channeled into its right arm. The rock-breaker heavy blade met the web of tentacles, and carved a heaven-shaking arc of light. A series of deafening screeches of metal on metal exploded. The sparks nearly lit up half of Linhai City. Those tentacles, capable of easily flattening a dozen-ton mech, were as brittle as dried twigs before this heavy blade, infused with the full weight and power of my machine. They were all severed in a single strike. The broken sheets of iron and rebar clattered to the ground. Black hydraulic fluid rained down like a torrential storm. The public channel instantly fell dead silent. A few seconds later, an overwhelming flood of astonished cries erupted. "Holy crap! He sliced through a dozen tentacles in one blow. What kind of monstrous power is that? Where did that sword come from? It definitely wasn't there a second ago." Compared to Zhang Hao's carbon fiber arm blades that are as fragile as paper, this damn thing is what you call a real weapon. I had no time to pay attention to the uproar on the channel. Using the recoil from severing the tentacles, the fortress's legs pushed off forcefully, its 660-ton body soaring into the air. I jumped directly onto the glutton's mountain-like torso. The steel sludge under my feet writhed madly, countless spikes erupting to try and impale me. But my 80mm thick marine composite armor slammed down, grinding all the spikes directly into metal shavings. My eyes were locked onto the center of its torso, on that constantly pulsing, purplish-red ignition core. That's its only weak point. Game over. I raised the rock-shattering heavy cleaver high, channeling all of my power into the blade. I plunged it violently down towards the core. But just as the tip was about to make contact, that mass of light suddenly burst forth with a blinding purplish-red glare. A terrifying, suffocating wave of energy exploded outwards. In my mind, the system's ear-splitting alarm went off. Warning: glutton undergoing forced evolution. Mass exceeding 20,000 tons. Core energy is completely out of control. The evolutionary energy shockwave instantly swept through the entire street. The surrounding abandoned buildings were like they were made of paper. They collapsed with a deafening roar. The previously loose steel sludge was being frantically compressed and fused under the tempering of high-dimensional energy. Its 20,000-ton steel body was forcibly forged into a 50mm thick, single-piece alloy armor. Its once writhing chassis sprouted 6 thick, mechanical legs. The evolved core on its chest pulsed like a miniature sun, giving off an apocalyptic aura. The few remaining survivors on the public channel were plunged into total despair. It's over, an evolved, 20,000-ton glutton. Lin Hai is completely doomed. The difference in tonnage is nearly 20 times. Even as powerful as that expert was just now, there's no way he can win. Run! Get out of there before it's too late. The system's red alerts were still flooding my screen. Warning! Target's overall combat strength is 17 times that of the host. Capable of releasing area of effect energy shockwaves. Please evacuate immediately. Evacuate? I leaned back in the warm cockpit seat. A cold, grim smile formed on my lips. In my past life, I'd seen plenty of these things. These cobbled-together jobs that rely on forced energy evolution. It might seem like its tonnage has skyrocketed, but in reality, its core is completely exposed on the outside. And the joints of its 6 mechanical legs are riddled with fatal flaws from insufficient energy tempering. It's still just a poorly built sandcastle, and I'm the solid steel ball that just gets harder the more it's tempered. The enraged, evolved glutton opened its mouth and spewed a purplish-red energy beam. Wherever the beam passed, the asphalt on the road melted into molten sludge. It shot straight for my cockpit. Everyone must have thought I would dodge, but I did the exact opposite. I slammed the controls forward, and the fortress mech charged fearlessly right into the shockwave. At the same time, with a mere thought, the rock-shattering heavy cleaver instantly changed its form. The blade unfolded into a 20-meter-wide alloy shield, planting itself firmly in front of me. The shockwave crashed violently into the giant shield, and the piercing sound of burning metal exploded outwards. The entire city block was enveloped in the purplish-red light. When the light finally dissipated, everything fell silent. My fortress mech was still standing steady, right where it was. The giant shield, though covered in scorch marks, was completely unscathed. Thankfully, I was completely unharmed. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Someone screamed on the public channel. Right at the moment the glutton was stunned. I seized that fleeting opportunity. The fortress mecha suddenly leaped. Using the momentum from the charge, I viciously stomped down and snapped the joints of its 2 mechanical legs. The advanced glutton instantly lost its balance. It let out a pained roar, its massive body staggering before crashing to the ground. I didn't hesitate for a second. The hydraulic anchor in my left arm slammed viciously into its torso. No matter how it rolled and struggled, I held firm. The Stonebreaker greatsword in my right hand was raised high once more. The blade hummed from the power overload, as a golden energy flowed along its edge. With world-shattering force, the greatsword plunged deep into its chest, striking the fully exposed spark core. The core shattered and instantly exploded. Higher dimensional energy, several times more powerful than before, erupted like a tsunami. The advanced glutton's 20,000-ton body let out a dying wail. It then began to rapidly disintegrate, ultimately turning into a pile of molten scrap. Nanometal particles frantically devoured the surging spark energy. System notifications began to flood my mind. High-risk spark energy absorption, complete. Mecha idle mass increased to 2,100 tons. Armor thickness upgraded to 150 mm. Spark-tempered alloy steel. Power core upgraded to a dual-matrix diesel engine. Peak power, 18,000 horsepower. Stonebreaker greatsword upgrade complete. Can now release armor-piercing spark shockwaves. Idle mass increased to 120 tons. I slowly clenched my fists, feeling the overwhelming power coursing through my body. With a casual swing of the blade, a golden shockwave shot out, slicing a distant office building clean in half. The golden gleam of the blade faded. The entire street fell silent, the only sound being the crackle of cooling metal. I stood amidst the glutton's remains, a river of dark red molten scrap flowing at my feet. 2 giant exhaust pipes on my back belched black smoke. The 15-meter fortress had now grown to over 20 meters tall. The armor was thicker, the joints heavier. Every breath it took sounded like an entire steel factory in operation. A trembling voice finally broke the silence on the public channel. "You, sir, What class of mecha are you, anyway? I looked down. Behind the ruins at the corner of the street, a few small mechas were cowering. One was converted from a van, another was a spindly-legged mecha that used to be a food delivery scooter. It was still clutching a dented thermal delivery box. They didn't charge forward, nor did they get on their knees to beg for their lives. They were just afraid, that look in their eyes. I was all too familiar with it. When the apocalypse first began, everyone thought they had awakened some power, that they were the protagonist. That is, until the first monster appeared. Then they realized they were nothing more than walking rations. I ignored them. The spark furnace in my fortress's chest vibrated gently, automatically absorbing the glutton's residual higher-dimensional fragments. Internal scan. Fusible module detected. Magnetic tractor chain. Source. Glutton tentacle structure. Initiate fusion. Fuse. The heavy armor on the fortress's back slid open. A dozen thick, black chains extended out from both sides of the spine. Their ends were tipped with barbed magnetic anchors. The moment the magnetic tractor chain fusion was complete, the armor on the fortress's back sealed shut again. As for those small mechas on the street corner, finally mustering its courage, a van mech stepped out and raised its hands. Its voice trembled. "Sir, we don't mean any harm. We just wanted to ask if we could follow you." The delivery scooter mech beside it was more direct. Its legs were shaking. "I won't be a freeloader. I can make deliveries, I can patch tires, I can even run errands." I glanced at them. Their total mass ranged from tens of kilograms to 2 tons. On the first day of the apocalypse, mechs like these weren't even qualified to be cannon fodder. But the fear in their eyes was real. In my past life, I too had stood before the strong like this, swallowing my pride, just begging for a scrap of food. I didn't say no, but I didn't say yes either. Just then, heavy footsteps echoed from the far end of the street. Thump, thump, thump. An off-road mech about 6 meters tall emerged from behind the ruins. It had broad shoulders, thick armor, and limbs that were thick and strong. Mounted on its chest was a battering ram made from the front bumper of an SUV, transformed into a ram plate. Behind it, a dozen or so smaller mechs followed, like a pack of hounds that had just found their master. A familiar voice crackled over the public channel. "Don't panic, everyone. I'm Li Meng. From now on, this block is under my command." My gaze turned cold. Li Meng. In my past life, he was the temporary leader of Linhai's third shelter. He wasn't the strongest, but he was the best at playing the good guy. He talked about managing resources for everyone, but in reality, he just robbed the weak. I was a mechanic for 3 years in my past life. I replaced his armor plates countless times. Every time, he'd pat my shoulder and say, "Lin Chen, do a good job. Your big bro won't treat you unfairly." Later, when the undead horde stormed the camp, he was the first to shove us mechanics out, to block the gate. Li Meng's off-road mech stopped 100 meters in front of me. He tilted his head back, looking up at my 20-meter-plus tall fortress, and his voice faltered for a moment. But he quickly composed himself. "Brother, I saw what you did. You're tough, no doubt. But no matter how tough one person is, you can't protect all these supplies alone." He pointed a finger at the cargo bed behind me. It was piled high with diesel, canned food, water, and compressed biscuits. On the first day of the apocalypse, these things were worth more than life itself. The surrounding survivor, mech's gazes shifted instantly. A hint of desire crept into their fear. Li Meng knew how to manipulate people. He continued, "How about this? You hand over the supplies, and we'll distribute them evenly among everyone. You'll be our main fighter, and I'll take care of management. We'll be an unstoppable team. More people will be able to survive." The van mech couldn't help but take half a step back. The delivery scooter mech whispered, "But, all that stuff belongs to him." Li Meng snapped his head around. "It's the apocalypse. There's no yours or mine anymore. He's so strong. Is missing one meal going to kill him?" With that, the public channel went silent. I laughed. I knew this act all too well. In my past life, he did the same thing. standing on his moral high ground, taking what belonged to others, and making it everyone's with just a few words. I raised my right arm. The heavy rock-shattering blade hung at my side. Its tip scraped along the ground, carving a trench that glowed with sparks. "Li Meng, if you want to rob me, just say so." Li Meng's voice grew heavy. "Brother, don't put it so harshly. I'm giving you a way out. You just went through a huge battle. Your mech must be running on fumes, right? I've got over a dozen guys here. Are you really going to, for a few boxes of cans, turn against all the other survivors?" The mechs behind him immediately closed in. Some were nervous, others excited. A mech that looked like it was made from a small truck raised a steel fork, its voice raspy. "Brother Meng is right. The supplies should be distributed evenly." Another sedan mech chimed in, "All that diesel. Can he even use it all himself?" The food delivery scooter mech got agitated. "Why didn't you guys dare to fight the glutton earlier? Now you show up to divvy up the goods?" Li Meng raised his hand and sent a slap flying. That electric scooter mech was sent tumbling 7 or 8 meters, its delivery box getting smashed out of shape. "Is it your place to speak here?" My eyes turned completely cold. I can choose not to save people, but I despise those who prey on the weak while pretending to be saviors. Li Meng turned back to me, his voice laced with menace. "Lin Chen. This is your last chance. Hand over the supplies and join us. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless." I didn't answer. The fortress's chest-mounted dual-matrix diesel core roared to life. 2 plumes of black smoke erupted from its back. Every shard of glass on the street trembled from the vibration. Li Meng's face changed. He immediately took half a step back. But with so many people behind him, he couldn't afford to look weak. "Get him. He just finished fighting the glutton. He's running on empty." A dozen mechs charged forward at once. Steel forks, iron pipes, and shields made from car doors rained down on my leg joints. I stood perfectly still. Clang, 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 clang. Sparks flew everywhere. Those attacks, hitting the 150mm spark-forged alloy steel, didn't even leave a single decent scratch. Someone froze on the spot, stunned. How are we supposed to fight this? I lifted my foot and gave a light stomp. Boom! The ground collapsed. The 3 mechs at the front were thrown to the ground by the shockwave, sparks erupting from their joints. I didn't crush them. I just disabled them. The real targets weren't these manipulated fools. It was Li Meng. He used the chaos to circle to my flank. The off-road mech's shoulder armor flared open as he initiated a heavy charge. The 6-meter-tall mech burst forward with astonishing speed, like an out-of-control armored car. It slammed violently toward my knee. In my past life, he'd used this very move to topple many powerful opponents. But against the 2,100-ton fortress, his impact was less than a ripple in a pond. I raised a hand, spreading my 5 fingers. The armor on my back split open without a sound. The next second, a dozen jet-black magnetic grappling chains shot out as if from nowhere. The previously bare backplate instantly resembled an unfurling web of steel. Li Meng's pupils shrank. What is that thing? The magnetic anchors precisely bit into his shoulders, waist armor, and leg joints with a screech. The powerful magnets locked on, bringing his charge to a dead halt 30 meters in front of me. The inertia sent groans and creaks through his entire suit of armor. With a pull of my right arm, the 6-meter-tall off-road mech was dragged to my feet like a sack of potatoes. Li Meng was utterly terrified. It's a misunderstanding. I just wanted to cooperate. I looked down at him. You said the same thing in the last life. Li Meng freezes. What last life? I don't explain. The rock-shattering heavy cleaver flips over. I smash down hard with the back of the blade. His right arm's armor shatters on the spot. The bumper guard transformed from the off-road vehicle shatters all over the ground. The second hit snaps his left leg's drive shaft. The third hit, the row of impact plates on his chest is smashed into scrap metal. Li Meng's voice changes completely, losing its earlier composure. Only trembling is left. Stop hitting me. Stop hitting me. I don't want the supplies. I'll leave right now. I leaned down, my giant steel palm pressing down on his head armor. My voice echoes through the entire street. Remember, the apocalypse is not a stage for you to play the good guy. If you dare use others as bargaining chips again, it won't be just your outer armor I'll be dismantling. Li Meng lies prone on the ground, motionless. He doesn't dare to move. The mechs behind him are all frozen in place. The small truck mech, who had been yelling the loudest just now, silently drops its steel fork on the ground. The food delivery e-bike mech climbs out of the rubble, looking at me, its voice terribly hoarse. Big brother, thank you. I don't look at him, retracting my magnetic traction chain. Then, I bend down, and from the remains of the glutton, I pick up a fragment of a spark that is still glowing red. A system prompt sounds. Low-grade spark fragment detected. Can be used to temporarily enhance a subordinate mech. I turn my head to look at the food delivery e-bike mech. He's so scared he immediately stands at attention. I toss the spark fragment at his feet. You dared to speak up just now. This is your reward. He freezes. For a moment, all the surrounding mech stop breathing. Li Meng is still prone on the ground, sparks still fizzing from the seams of his armor, staring at that spark fragment. His eyes are completely bloodshot. The food delivery e-bike mech tremblingly picks up the fragment. The next second, his skinny legs begin to reconfigure. The insulated box on his back cracks open, becoming a pair of light thruster wings. His voice, broadcast on the public channel, is trembling uncontrollably. Big brother. I've become stronger. The food delivery e-bike mech has just finished integrating the spark fragment. His height shot up from 1.5 meters to 2.8 meters. The newly formed thruster wings on his back retract. Their thin, iron-gray edges are still humming and vibrating. Big brother, my name is Su Fan. He looks up at me, his voice still trembling. I used to be a food delivery guy. I handled all the orders around Linhai University. Within 3 kilometers, no one was faster than me. I say nothing. At this moment, on the system map, Linhai City has become a chaotic mess of red and green dots. The red dots are mechanobeasts. The green dots are survivor mechs. The green dots are rapidly decreasing. They're not being eaten by the mechanobeasts. They're devouring each other. I am preparing to take the supplies and move to a safer, high-ground position. Suddenly, a voice explodes over the public channel. The Linhai industrial port has been fully taken over by me. There is a large amount of fuel, metal, materials, and industrial machinery within the port area. Those who want to live, bring your supplies and report to the port. Those who don't come will bear the consequences themselves. The channel instantly erupts into a frenzy. Zhao Henian? The young master of the Zhao family, the one in shipping? Aren't there several 10,000-ton cargo ships docked at the port? We're screwed if those cargo ships also turn into mechs. I stare at the system map, at the dense cluster of light dots in the direction of the port. Zhao Henian will be the most powerful faction leader in Linhai City. It wasn't because of how great a fighter he was, but because of his father's shipping company. 3 10,000-ton bulk carriers were docked in the port district the moment the apocalypse began. The 3 10,000-ton cargo ships transformed simultaneously. The transformation efficiency of ships is far worse than that of land vehicles. The hulls use a lot of low-density compartment structures, so the actual effective mass is only about 1/3 of their own weight, but the sheer numbers made up for it. With all the ships combined, the effective transformed mass alone exceeded 715,000 tons. In his past life, Zhao Henian relied on these 3 ship mechs to dominate Linhai for half a year, until he encountered that thing that crawled out from the deep sea.